Now available in paperback and Kindle Unlimited, The Man Crisis. Learn why so many men are struggling to find their way in an increasingly gynocentric world in The Man Crisis. Get your copy of The Man Crisis in paperback and Kindle Unlimited today. Yesterday, former police officer Amber Guyger was convicted for the murder of Botham Jean. And it was a miracle that we were able to see Amber Guyger get convicted for the murder of Botham Jean, because it was clear that the fix was in from minute one that this trial started. And when you take a critical examination of this Amber Guyger trial, the Dallas prosecutor and the judge made every effort to try to excuse Amber Guyger's irresponsible, reckless, and egregious behavior by murdering Botham Jean. And what was even more troubling was that we had black people trying to find ways to justify the murder of Botham Jean. Now, your Amber Guyger, when she went into Botham Jean's apartment, says she mistook his apartment for hers, but I find that to be quite questionable, because anyone who lives in an apartment is going to know what their apartment looks like. They're going to know what their furnishings look like. They're going to know the texture of the carpet on their floors. They're going to know everything about their apartment, and they're going to look at it and look at it and say, hey, there's something wrong here. And that right there is a red flag to me, because if you step into an apartment and you see that the furnishings are completely different, you're going to say, hey, I'm in the wrong apartment. Now, your Amber Guyger says that she went into the wrong apartment because of the layout of the complex, but I really don't believe that. I believe that she went into this apartment and went to murder Botham Jean because she was probably angry because she was, again, having an affair with one of these other men out here and was angry about that, and then went into this apartment with this weapon drawn. And again, I look at it and say, this could not be a mistake. Now, she says that she thought that Botham Jean was a burglar, but would a burglar be sitting on his sofa eating a bowl of ice cream? When you look at that whole scenario that she broke out, it just does not add up to a case of a mistake. It adds up to murder, because this woman knew she was in the wrong place, but still decided to shoot this man. And she only shot this man because she thought she would be able to get away with it. Because here in gynocentric America, white females know, in many cases, that they won't be held accountable for their behavior, nor will they be made to take responsibility for their behavior, because in white supremacist America, white females oftentimes get a pass for their behavior, whether it be going out here and telling lies about crimes that did not happen, or participating in violent crimes. Your white female oftentimes thinks she'll get a pass for her irresponsible, reckless, and egregious behavior. And your Amber Guyger thought she would get that pass because she was a white female, and she also thought she would get that pass because she was a police officer. However, when people started to scrutinize this whole case, that's why the prosecutors were forced to charge her, because when you look at the case, it clearly was a case of murder. Because, again, if you are living in an apartment someplace, you're going to know your own furnishings, and you're going to know how you laid out the furniture in your apartment, and you're going to know what your apartment looks like from minute one. Now, what I found to be really disturbing about this whole trial was the fact that we had black people looking to excuse the murder of Botham Jean. And one of the people I found to be quite disturbing was this Texas Ranger, this black Texas Ranger, who said it was reasonable to think that Botham Jean would be a burglar. Now, I found this to be mind-boggling, but when you think about these cooning and buffooning Negroes out here who look to buck dance and shuffle for the white man, it really shows how deeply disturbed they really are. Because how can a man be a burglar if he's sitting in his own apartment with a bowl of ice cream in front of the television? That's not the behavior of a burglar. Burglars, when they enter apartments, usually break the lock, which does not fit within Amber Guyger's story, because if a burglar has broken the lock or picked the lock, that would already be noticeably visible to someone trained like a police officer like your Amber Guyger. So that already there destroys your Botham, not your this Texas Ranger's argument right there, or as related to Botham Jean, where he sits there and says she could have thought he was a burglar, but any trained police officer would notice something wrong with the door as related to the apartment. And if they notice something wrong with the door, they're not going to go in without calling in some backup on their cell phone. But your Amber Guyger, who was on her cell phone with this man she was having an affair with, she was thinking about going into an apartment, not thinking about what the numbers were or anything like that. And she was looking for a way to excuse herself in her behavior. She was just looking for a way to justify committing this murder. And what this Texas Ranger was doing was trying to look for a way to justify this story, because this Texas Ranger clearly believed in white supremacy, and he believed that the white person was right even though they were wrong. And again, when you listen to the story, it doesn't make any logical sense, because if a trained police officer thought a burglar was in her apartment, she would have noticed something wrong with the door. She would have noticed something wrong with the apartment, because when burglars enter apartments and they're looking for valuables, they are in the places where they believe valuables will be, such as the bedroom, where they're looking for jewelry and cash, which is because that's what burglars really want. But they would not be sitting on a sofa eating a bowl of ice cream. So that right there proves that the whole argument about her believing that your Botham Jean was a burglar was completely illogical. And when you listen to that testimony, it makes absolutely no logical sense. And it shows that your Amber Guyger willfully and intentionally murdered Botham Jean instead of apologizing and then leaving the apartment. She could have easily resolved things if this apartment complex was so confusing by apologizing, but instead she decided to take out her weapon and decided to murder this man, because she did this with malice aforethought, and people were looking to justify this murder and make it look like, oh, it was an accident and a mistake. And again, they did that because of gynocentrism and white supremacy, because whenever a white woman goes out here and commits a crime, oftentimes because many people in America elevate the white woman to such a high position, they look for a way to justify her criminal activities in many cases, such as the one with Carolyn Donham when she went out here and orchestrated the murder of Emmett Till. Oftentimes, you have white men, and even sadly these days, black people looking for a way to justify these type of crimes, and they only want to do that because they don't believe that a white woman is capable of committing any sort of crime. But your Amber Guyger did commit a crime by murdering Botham Jean, and if these people had gotten away with a verdict where this woman was cleared, it would have set a very dangerous legal precedent. Now, the judge in this case, what she wanted to do to try to justify this murder was she told the jury to follow the castle doctrine, and that wouldn't have fit the whole case because Texas has a law similar to the stand your ground law, which is the castle doctrine, but she entered your Botham Jean's castle. So Botham Jean would have actually been justified in murdering Amber Guyger, but your Amber Guyger was breaking and entering into Botham Jean's apartment. So the castle doctrine did not apply in this case, and the reason why it did not apply in this case was because this was not your Amber Guyger's castle, it was Botham Jean's castle. But your judge in the case, who I believe was a black woman, was looking for a way to justify this murder of Botham Jean so that this white woman could get away with this crime. But as I stated before, if they were gotten away with acquitting Amber Guyger, it would have set a very bad legal precedent for America, similar to the Cosby conviction just about 2 years ago or a year ago. And that Cosby conviction, it set a legal precedent that changed our legal standard from due process under the law and innocent until proven guilty to the standard of trust and believe. And this verdict, which would have come if Amber Guyger had gotten an acquittal, would have reinforced the whole trust and believe precedent set by the Cosby conviction, and it would have set a very dangerous legal precedent because if your Amber Guyger would have been acquitted for this crime, what the statute of law would have been after this would have been a statute of law where women would not be held accountable for their criminal behavior. Because if your Amber Guyger were to have been acquitted for the murder of Botham Jean, that would have set a legal precedent where all a woman has to do is commit a crime against a man, and she would be justified under, one, the standard of trust and believe, because we have to believe her word is true over the facts of evidence and due process under the law, and two, she would be able to get away with murdering an individual because we now have a legal precedent with the acquittal of your Amber Guyger for the murder of Botham Jean, where this absolves a white female of any sort of accountability and would have absolved any woman of any sort of accountability. And this would have been a very dangerous legal precedent to set because with the standard of trust and believe as the legal law of the land, this would have made it where any woman out here could be justified in participating in a murder of any man in this country, whether he be white, whether he be black, or any other ethnicity. All she would have to do is say that she felt terrified and fearful for her life, and because we have the standard of trust and believe and the legal precedent set by an Amber Guyger acquittal, what would have happened would be that these white females and females of color would go out here and be able to murder any man in this country, and this would have stripped men of their rights to receive any sort of due process under the law, because we all have to trust and believe that the woman was justified in murdering that man because she alleges that she was fearful for her life. But that doesn't make any logical sense when you consider that your Amber Guyger was a police officer and was trained for these kinds of situations. So that really shows again how flimsy her argument was, and your Amber Guyger knew how flimsy her argument was, and what she did to try to persuade people to believe her argument was she tried to change her appearance. Now, your Amber Guyger when she was a Dallas police officer was a brunette. But for this trial, she decided to dye her hair blonde. And the reason why she dyed her hair blonde was because she wanted to appear more attractive to the court, and she wanted to appear more attractive to the jurors because she knew that white women with blonde hair and blue eyes usually get more preference than your brunette white females. And your Amber Guyger, as she was putting on that blonde hair and dyeing her hair blonde, she was also looking to win over jurors by putting on these extra salty tears, because a lot of times when these white women know that they are jammed up, what they will do is go out here and put on the extra salty tears and play the victim. And sadly, some of these beta males and simps and some of these females out here, they will become sympathetic to a white woman, and then they will defer and give her preference, even though this woman was clearly in the wrong. And because she's playing the victim, this is how she evades any sort of accountability. But in this case, thank God, people saw through your Amber Guyger. They saw through her ploys to try to manipulate and persuade people to believe that she was sweet and innocent, because your Amber Guyger was not sweet and innocent. Your Amber Guyger knew what she was doing, and what she wanted to do was find a way to escape any sort of accountability and escape taking responsibility for the murder of Botham Jean. And I thank God we did get this conviction, but I know that things aren't over yet, because just like the case with Peter Liang, we have to look at the sentencing, and I'm hoping that the judge in this case doesn't try to give your Amber Guyger a suspended sentence or try to minimize any sort of punishment, because if we let this Amber Guyger get away with the murder of Botham Jean with a light punishment, then all that's going to do again is set a very dangerous legal precedent for men in this country. Because if a woman can get away with murdering a man in his own home, then no man is safe in these United States. And this is the thing that your Texas judges and prosecutors really need to understand about this Amber Guyger case, is that it sets a legal precedent that really can determine what men's rights will be in this country. We've already seen damage done to men's rights with the Cosby conviction, where a man really does not have the right to due process under the law anymore, thanks to that conviction now as re-establishing the whole trust and believe standard. And this would compound it, because if your Amber Guyger is given a light sentence, then what's going to happen is every woman these days will be able to escape any sort of punishment for the crimes they commit, because they know that there's legal precedent to give them a pass for their behavior. And all this is going to do, if this judge does not throw the book at Amber Guyger, is create a legal precedent that makes it where not only a black man's life would be put in danger by women, but it would also be white men's lives being put in danger as well, because these white females, what they're going to do is they're going to use this case as the precedent for justifying murdering a man in his own home, and then try to use the excuse of saying that they were so terrified that this was their reason for murdering them. And this is what white supremacists don't understand about the Botham Jean case, because when they bring race into it, they're just thinking they are letting a woman get away with murdering another black man, but they don't understand the consequences on this case of white men as well, because when these women can get away with murdering Botham Jean, eventually they're going to go over to white men and then use this same case as their precedent. And it's just like Casey Anthony, again, another white woman looking to get away with her crimes. And America has to start holding these white females accountable for their crimes, because if we don't hold them accountable, then how can we have equal justice, what many of these feminists say that they want? Because if you want equal rights, there is equal responsibilities, and when you do crimes like a man, you have to be held accountable like a man and punished in the same way a man would be punished. If you'd like to see me make more videos like this, you can donate to my Patreon, my PayPal, or my Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. And if you want to pick up my books on men's issues like The Man Crisis, you may do so by clicking the link to Amazon.com in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback and coming to Kindle Unlimited, John Haynes' Dark Succubus. The man who rules the world is tempted by a sultry succubus in this all-new John Haynes series adventure. Get John Haynes' Dark Succubus in paperback or pre-order on Kindle Unlimited today.